All right, so Mississippi Today was founded 3 years ago as a solution to the problem of our capital, like a lot of state houses around the country, of becoming a news desert. But we knew as the new kids on the block, we didn't want to be an alternative source of news. We wanted to figure out what role can we play in supporting legacy media and existing media, but also make people feel like they're getting something special from Mississippi Today that they can only get from Mississippi Today, and also create spaces for others in the ecosystem. And what we decided to do was to focus on filling in coverage gaps. So we don't compete head-to-head with the daily newspaper or other competitors. Out of the gate, we doubled the number of reporters who are covering the Mississippi Capitol full-time. We have 5 reporters who are there full-time on a given session day. And on any session day in particular, all of our reporters may be in and out of the building, flooding the zones. I mean, we wanted to cover the hell out of legislative committees that weren't getting coverage anymore. We wanted to cover agencies that weren't getting coverage anymore. And not just the big sexy ones like the Departments of Health and Education and Corrections. You know, we wanted to cover the Mississippi Public Service Commission, which regulates utilities in our state. We wanted to cover the Mississippi Transportation Commission, which is making decisions about infrastructure funding, and obscure agencies like the Office of State Aid Road Construction, which it took us a while to figure out what exactly that was. But it's a very important agency that's involved in local infrastructure funding decisions. And more than anything, Mississippi Today wanted to be the place that really got at the question of why, as we say in Mississippi, are we always first in everything bad and last in everything good? We shouldn't have to brag about diversity, but I'm going to do it. We hire people who look like people who live in our state. And not just for applause lines at conferences, but we feel strongly about the fact that you cannot cover the state with the largest African-American population in the United States, with Mississippi's unique history of slavery and Jim Crow and racial terror, with a newsroom full of white folks, or a newsroom management structure full of just old white men. And so this is something that we're really proud about, because once you drill down, right, and do data analyses, we will find stories about racial inequity in criminal justice and healthcare and education, but even on stuff like infrastructure. And I swear, like, that's not all we do, but it's a lot of what we do, because infrastructure stories are also stories about racial equity. Right? There's stories about poverty, about power, who gets to make decisions for everybody in the state, and who doesn't have the power to make those decisions. And we do it all over the state. I mean, we're based in Jackson, but these are an example of some of the datelines that we filed just in the last year and a half. Jackson is covered. Jackson has a pretty reasonably robust media presence, so we don't have to spend a lot of time in Jackson. We can spend our time in Southwest Mississippi, which hardly has any statewide coverage. Up in the Delta, we have 2 Delta-based reporters on our team. Northeast Mississippi and on the coast. North Central Mississippi, and covering issues like our Choctaw community. So we understand that a lot of news organizations no longer have the resources to put reporters on the road. We are fortunate in the sense that we can. And so we want our reporters out in the field as much as possible, in communities, talking to people about what's important there. And so when we talk to our readers and our members about what they think Mississippi Today adds in terms of value, you'll see a little, some people see us as an alternative, But more than anything, what we hear is that people feel like they get something from Mississippi Today that they don't get from other media. And so what that says to me is that we're actually not being extractive. We're actually adding value to our ecosystem, and we are succeeding in creating spaces for everybody to succeed and grow and thrive. And just to talk a little bit about the work that we have ahead, I mean, we just got into the collaboration game in the past year. And our approach to collaborations is to not be particularly precious about them. I mean, we will work with anybody who wants to work with us. And so we're working with a local TV station to put together a series of investigations. Thank you, Nave Foundation. We're working with other journalism nonprofits to do stories around certain issues, in this case, education funding. And so we contributed a number of stories to this collaboration. We also contributed a number of editorial cartoons to the collaboration. Everybody ran all the stories on their site. We ran the stories on our site. And it was actually the first time that we had a story appear in the daily newspaper on A1. It was a Saturday, but we'll take it how we can get it. And then the kind of collaboration that I'm most interested in and most excited about are these little collaborations that we do. You know, I think a lot of times we think that collaborations have to be these big-ass projects that take months and months of planning and produce, 10,000-word series. But what we realize is that, we never go to Natchez, right? We never had any reporting out of Natchez. What was going on in Natchez? And we just got on the phone with the local editor and asked, what's an issue in Natchez that's important that you all need to do a story on, you just haven't had a chance to, right? And so their reporters made a few phone calls, reached out to their sources. Our reporters reached out to our sources, and we put together a little story in a week. And then at the end of this, we planned an event at a local brewery in Natchez where we talked about the story. We talked about people's frustrations with this infrastructure problem and with our lawmakers in Jackson, which, we have intimate knowledge of, and we talked about it over beers. And that's what we want to double down on this year. Because of our collaboration with the local TV station, other TV stations are now coming out of the woodwork saying that they want to work with us, right? And we're having conversations about how to structure those differently so that they're not competitive with each other, because TV is still fiercely competitive. We can be all kumbaya and blow up the competitive model if we want. But yeah, we want to have conversations and be deliberate about structuring collaborations in ways so that all boats rise. And so this is really where our focus is right now. Thanks.